Hello, everyone, and welcome to OpenExO Live. So great to be here today. Today, we have Andy Barnes, who is going to be speaking with us. And as you can see from the image on screen, we have some amazing folks coming up in the coming weeks. And so Andy is fairly new to the OpenExO community. He's the founder of 6prog, which is a platform that helps businesses to write agile statement of work agreements for projects. And Andy has been working remotely for many years. I read online somewhere that he usually works anywhere with a Wi-Fi connection and some black coffee. So today we will be speaking about the future of work, the ethics around that, looking at how remote work can improve diverse teams and perhaps a lot more. So if you have any questions around this, please do stick those in the comments. No matter what platform you're on, we will be able to see those. So Andy, it's really great to have you with us today. How are you doing today?
Hey, Kevin, really well. Good to see you too.
That's great. So Andy, you're based in the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came upon the OpenExO community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working for about 20 years in the staffing space, if I term it fairly loosely. I initially worked for a graduate training business, and then after that worked in a niche consultancy firm doing risk and regulatory work for banks. More recently founded a platform, 6prog, as you mentioned in your intro. Through that, a friend of mine runs an organization called the Open Assembly, and one of their team had recently worked on the foundation certificate for OpenExO, and they suggested I'd like it. I loved it. I thought it was great. So if there's anybody listening who hasn't done that yet, then I think just log in and get involved.
Awesome. So yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And so, Andy, today the idea was to speak about the future of work. Really, what's your view on the future of work?
I think I've sat in so many of these meetings, and there's always somebody who pipes up and says the following, and today it's got to be me. We're in the future of work. We're here already. There are a number of businesses who are in what we are calling the future of work, and quite honestly, we need another name for it. I think that the pace and the rapid change that you can gain from operating online with other parties, not necessarily people who sit in the same building 3 feet away from you, is incredibly powerful. And there are lots of other reasons that I'm sure we'll go into for why it's accelerating and why there's a lot more to do.
No, absolutely. Now, one of the things, of course, staff on demand is an attribute of the EXO model, right? And one of the things that many people bring up is, well, how do we actually leverage that and in an ethical way?
Yeah, I think it's the great thing about that is that's probably not the first question that comes up. And I think when people initially say, well, let's get staff on demand, how do we get them from another place? Even the phrase staff on demand doesn't sound particularly nice for those individuals who are demanded. So I think that whilst the first question most people probably think is, how do I lower my costs? Let's go staff on demand. Actually, they should be thinking about diversity, about quality, and price can come into it after that. But the main thing is that access to quality that you gain by widening that space that you are bringing in help from.
No, I mean absolutely, and I'm actually going to jump into what you just said around diversity. When we were preparing for this, you shared an article with me. I think it was from Fast Company around the fact that remote work is vital to that diversity. Can you give some more flavor around that?
Yeah, I think historically we've the higher paid people have worked in the big cities. They've been local to the big cities, and that has immediately prevented the businesses who are located there from attracting a diverse group of people to join those organizations immediately, just by the notion of geography. Clearly, especially as we've seen this year with the issues around COVID, many people in professional industries can operate from anywhere in the globe. There is perhaps an element that you need people to be in your time zone, although we're talking now and we're a number of hours separate, and it's going okay so far. So I think that aside from that concern, mostly you can reach out and bring in people from anywhere. What that does is incredibly empowering, because it means that you end up building products that fit a bigger audience. So there's a nicety about being diverse in your culture and the people you bring in. And then there's some hard business truths that you end up with a product or a service that fits many more categories of people if the people building it are from those groups.
No, I mean, absolutely. And Andy, I mean, you're sort of living and breathing this, right? In terms of your team being fairly diverse in where it's located.
Yeah, we've got a very small team. We've got a couple in the north of England who operate for us. We've got one in New York, one in Portland, recently moved to Portland, and then a couple of others who are near Brighton and London, where I am. So it's reasonably diverse. As I say, it's still a small team, so I don't think we can sit there and claim that we've hit every metric that we should. But what it does do is it sets a precedent for how the company can continue building. And it also, when I look at the freelance community who join our platform, it makes it much easier to reach out and engage with different groups. So we're pleased to do that.
No, absolutely. And so when it really comes to those, those freelance platforms, many people out there might, have heard of or worked on platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, right? But I mean, the market's definitely evolving. It's changing. It's shifting. Where are we heading now? What is actually out there? What should people know about out there in the world to not be so narrow in their choice?
And so I'll answer this, I suppose, from two perspectives. From the client end first, there are probably more than this, but I've divided up some of my favorite platforms into four groups. So from a client perspective, they can look at knowledge platforms, crowdsourcing platforms, gig platforms, and community platforms. It's okay. My own definition, but I'll happily explain a bit more. Knowledge platforms, think of them a little bit like the conversations that you have on places like Facebook or LinkedIn, but much more in depth. You can reach out to somebody who has core knowledge of a given topic and say, look, I need you 15 minutes, half an hour. I need a phone call, a chat, or I need to gather a crowd of people with your background and get insight from all of you and get data from 100 people doing roughly the same job in the same industry and see what you think. Very fast access to knowledge, much quicker than the traditional model of bringing in a big four consultancy and paying them lots of money for a very colorful deck. So that's how I see knowledge platforms. Crowdsourcing platforms are really interesting. So there you can put up a prize or an award, put up a theory, a problem, something that you're trying to solve very fast, and ask lots of people to contend for that work and to say, yeah, I've got an answer. This is how you could deliver it. So I love crowdsourcing platforms for that reason. It also gives individuals a real chance to shine. Gig platforms are probably the ones that you mentioned, Upwork, Freelancer, they're the big ones. I think that people do terrifically well in those, and you can go anywhere on the internet and find people who are making six-figure sums and really enjoying it. The reality is that many people on those platforms aren't working, and they're placing bids on jobs, and the race to the bottom stuff is true. Having said that, that's also your diversity play. If you can race to the bottom and bring in people who are incredibly talented, who live in low-cost areas, then fantastic. That's where clients really gain on those sort of platforms. The last one, and I'd absolutely put OpenExO in this one, is community platforms, where groups of suppliers can group together who traditionally work on their own. They can form a project and go and deliver change. I've seen that in your community groups. There's easy ways of coming together with different talent and then forming an opinion that can help a client. And I do the same in my own platforms. I encourage diversity through groups of people who go on and help make change. Ideally exponential growth where it can be done. If not, small change, fixes that are needed done, all useful. And that I put in that community platforming group.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a great way, a great way to put it. From the actual supplier side, what do you think? Someone who is thinking about going freelance, what should they be looking at doing?
Wow. Okay. So if you're not freelance at the moment, there are a number of good people. I've got some who published on our website who run miniature courses. Is freelancing for you? There are podcasts. Just get through those initially. In different jurisdictions, there are different regulations that matter. So California has recently brought in AB5 for workers' rights. The UK has a law that has been around for 20 years, but it's changing how it is implemented, called IR35. So depending on where you live, find out how you're able to operate there, and obviously whether it's going to be lucrative, whether you're doing it for time, and a quality of life choice. Decide what you really want out of it, and like anything in life, set some aims, set some goals that are realistic that you want to achieve from it. So that would really be my step one. My step two actually would be to join quite a few different platforms. So some of them will work for you, and you put your profile on there, and then they will start connecting you. Generally speaking, the better ones, you put your profile on there and then you go and do the marketing yourself. You develop your own cachet, your own kudos, find the customers, and then leverage the platform to connect with those customers. That's fundamentally what the platform should do for you, give you a method of exchange, a method of working. So if you're freelancing and you're in the early days, don't think the platform will do it for you. You've got to go out there and make the connections yourself. The third and final thing I'd say is get involved. You and I both run platforms, Kevin. The best thing I like is somebody to reach out and say, how do I do that? Is that available? Where do I find that widget? I love it when users get involved and say, have you thought of? Probably the answer is yes, we've thought of it. But the implementation or how urgent it is, the users know that far more than the platform owner. So get involved, join the community calls, go to the wikis and make friends with people.
No, absolutely. And I see Jacques has asked a question here, which I'll put on the screen there, and it's a little bit off tack, but we'll answer this and then go back to some of the things I had for you. And if you have any other questions, please do ask them. But his question is just around, what do you think about employees having to sort of be on Zoom to create that office feeling?
Wow. I mean, the way Jacques worded the question, it sounds as if it's for the employee or the worker's benefit. And I think, quite honestly, if it is for the worker's benefit, they'll have already done it. If the workers want to feel involved, they'll have their friend on speed dial, they'll have their best mate on WhatsApp, they'll have that going on already. They won't need their boss to say, hi guys, turn your cameras on. It's unnecessary. I think that the better businesses are actually the ones who operate a bit like we do and other businesses are. And in this, future of work state that we're in, they'll be operating more on a deliverables basis anyway. So people should be given a piece of work to do that they accept or they engage in a certain way and say, yep, I'm happy to do that chunk of work, that deliverable, that milestone, however you term it. And then you do that at midnight if you need to. You do it during the day if you need to. As long as you turn up to the meetings that are scheduled, what you do in the rest of the time is up to you. So my gut feeling is it's if the workers want to do it, fantastic. It's to their benefit. I haven't met any that have.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. That really the future and right now everything should be about deliverables, right? What do you need to deliver, and what are you delivering? I've spoken to quite a few people during this time that have been sort of forced into remote work, saying, my word, I've realized how much when I'm at work I actually just sort of am messing around in essence, right? I'm getting so much more work done now. But some people though who who are working remotely. You mentioned around workers' rights and some of the sort of laws in different countries. I mean, and not to get too much into it, but it would be very interesting to have a bit of an understanding around that. Do people who are only freelancing, have workers' rights? What does that look like, in different places?
I guess for people who are running their own business, they're in charge of their own rights. They're the guardian of their own choices, the types of projects they want to work on, how the client wants to engage with that work being delivered is entirely up to them. Clearly, when you operate as a permanent employee of a large business, you have workers' rights, and they're put there. What I think is interesting about some of the changes, if we look at the gig economy, so the kind of the Uber, the Deliveroo, those sort of roles that people tend to do at a certain stage in their life, or tend to do with a certain set of skills while they're training for a professional role. Those ones, absolutely, they should be given some form of protection, because otherwise they are open to being abused. And we've seen a number of Uber cases that have come to the front. So they do. I think that the people who are directors of their own business, it's up to them. On that same vein, I've seen both some terrific groups. So for things like freelance and mental health, there's an organization called Leapers that you can join and talk to people. There are also some professional entities who generally provide things like insurance for freelancers, who are now also applying those other benefits. So they're actually giving freelancers an option to have a ride a bike to work scheme, dental care, a whole load, even holiday pay. Mm. So it becomes up to the freelance themselves to decide how much of their income they want to push towards a benefits package, which I think actually is nice. I think it puts the freedom there. I can see there's a question popped up regarding the UK. Specifically there, I did want to come back to that. One thing that I'd really like to see, and that I have been working with IPSI a little bit and lobbying for, is the concept that whatever way we are taxed as organizations also is tallied to some form of rights. There is a thing in the UK at the moment that tax is not related to rights, which seems entirely unfair. But a personal opinion that I'm sure will be backed by thousands of people.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And I guess, Andy, the one thing that is true is it does depend on different people, right? So all my life, for example, I've always wanted to be in control of where my money goes. Even when I was working for companies, I was never happy for them to decide where my pension was or where my medical was. I wanted to decide, right? But I know not everyone is like that. So would you agree that, is the future, far into the future, everything freelance and remote, or, what is your thinking there? I know it's a little bit like what's a crystal ball, but
no, but it does remind me of something else that I was going to bring up. So there's the same person who wrote the article about diversity also talks about being a captured individual in an organization. And I was also going to mention earlier about the younger people who want to join bigger organizations because they need mentorship. They need to sit with people in an office and copy them. How else do you learn stuff? You don't just know how to work. The education system in most countries has nothing to do with work. So there is an element where you need to be sitting with people who are senior to you, who can show you the ropes. And I think that there is a piece there where a percentage of people, absolutely, they are keen to join the field of work and entirely work and make the choices themselves. But not everybody. A lot of people want to work in teams. They want to work in groups. And actually, that brings us kind of neatly back to the platform status, which is, if you're in a good platform, it can give you, in many respects, the best of both worlds, because you can pick out people to mentor you and help you and give you advice. So you can be in that team environment. But you're also responsible for the types of projects you do, and you're only committing for the length of the project. You're not signing an employment contract that you will have to work for a number of years on. So,
no, absolutely. And the one thing I did want to chat about is, on platforms, of course, you got two sides, right? You've got the people looking for work and the people offering work, right? But some platforms are take quite a big slice. Some have different rules. So what should people be looking out for, right? Obviously, if you're a business, you just want a person who's going to do great work. But if you're an actual person doing work, like, what should you be looking out for in terms of the platform, and realizing that a slice of it is going towards that platform?
So there are 75 platforms out there, and probably more, but 75 on a recent count up that we did, and that's where I came up with those 4 sectors that we discussed before. Just join 10 or 20. They're all online platforms. They'll take minutes to sign up to. Invest your time after that. Out of 10 or 15 that you sign up to, then decide on your favorite 5, and then go and put in a bit of time on each. You don't need to be wedded to any of them for the length of your career. You just need to be wedded to them for the time it takes for them to give you some benefit. So that's what I'd suggest to the freelancers. I'd also suggest to be a member of any one of the categories I mentioned earlier, because then you get to deliver insight, which are brief phone calls or coffee meetings. You get to work on long 6-12 month projects. You get to work on small niche design houses. There could be a variety of things that you do with your time. I think that what is interesting is that the amount of innovation going on within the platforms as well means that they're very, very difficult to set up. They're very difficult to get a good, solid user base, but incredibly easy to lose that user base as well. So there are certain platforms out there who I'm not going to name on this call, but I know you have to actually put credits in order to be able to bid for a piece of work. And there are other platforms I know which say, hey, use the platform, use the software. If you can bring a client to us, you don't need to pay a penny. We'll pay you. So there's a huge variation and a huge balance in terms of how those platforms operate. Just dig in, find out what they do, and go and meet the owners. Find out if they're worth their salt and if they're trustworthy, and you'll know from there.
Absolutely. And I mean, I see Lucas has asked a few questions around trying to get entry level. It can be really hard, and I mean absolutely, I agree. I mean, it's in a very sort of virtual world too. It may seem quite difficult to actually share what you can do or who you are. But what I really suggest is that you let your actions speak for you, right? You let your work speak for you. Andy, what are your thoughts around that? How do people actually show their worth on a platform? How do you stand out?
I think it goes back to the groups and being involved in things. So I've done a lot of ostensibly free work with a number of platforms in order to understand how we can take this future of work to a better place, how we can help end clients to add platforms into their supplier categories, because a lot of them don't even entertain working through a platform. They still want to send contracts by post and interesting things like that. So looking at helping them, because I've got involved in some of those groups and sat in a lot of Zoom calls, I've managed to gain a lot of knowledge through that. And I think irrespective of what your discipline is, it is going to be about the people so that they can refer you for pieces of work when they come up. It's absolutely going to be about being in the LinkedIn communities, the Facebook communities, on those big platforms, but then also joining the niche communities on the different platforms that you're in. But it's not, to repeat myself, it's like the previous answer. The platform itself isn't going to do the work for you. It will give you some pointers, it'll give you some tips, but it's always going to be the relationships that win out, which has been the same for business for hundreds of years.
No, absolutely. So at the end of the day, really adding value to others first, I think still stands, right? and should stand the test of time. If you're adding value to to the communities you're a part of, people are very likely to want to use you in work scenarios following that.
But simpler than that, they just remember you.
Yeah,
it comes down to some really basic stuff of just being remembered by people. So there are lots of people who will put you on a self-promotion course and things like that, especially on LinkedIn. We all get the messages every day. You know what though? Have a quick listen to them. Pick up a tip from one or two of them, and then run with them and see what happens.
Absolutely. So Andy, I mean, thanks so much for joining us today. Is there anything you'd like to just share as you leave the call today?
I think we've covered everything. I think that they're over October. I know the FT is running a future of work piece for basically the whole of October. There's a freelance business in Europe that's running for the whole of October as well. So there are a whole load of calls like this happening. I don't know why everyone's picked October, but maybe that's the month for the future of work. But yeah, there's some fantastic stuff coming up, and I know you've got more to come as well, Kevin. So looking forward to the next one.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andy. You have a fantastic evening there.
You too.
Bye-bye. So that was Andy Barnes. Great to chat to him about the future of work. And as he said, the future of work is really now. If you are someone who's saying, well, what does that future actually look like? What is the work I need to do? I highly recommend you check out our digital replay of our EXO World events that we run. And we'll end off today with a video about that. Thanks so much. Remember to join Lance on Tuesday, where he'll be speaking to Emily, the CEO of EXO Works, and have a fantastic day wherever you are.